December 1941. Across the vast expanse of Europe, from the frozen tundra of the Arctic Circle to the burning sands of North Africa, the banners of Nazi Germany flew over conquered cities and cowed nations. Hitler's war machine, powered by lightning tactics and ruthless ambition, seemed all but unstoppable. The world watched in horror as the Third Reich carved out a brutal empire, and few could imagine a force capable of turning the tide. Yet, in the space of just 4 days, a series of decisions, born of arrogance, hubris, and a profound misunderstanding of both friend and foe, would set the course for the Third Reich's destruction. This is the story of how strategic overreach and tactical missteps sealed the fate of one of history's most destructive regimes. To grasp the magnitude of these blunders, we must first understand the scale of Nazi Germany's early triumphs. In September 1939, the Blitzkrieg stormed across Poland with terrifying speed, toppling the nation in just 27 days. The following spring, Hitler's armies swept through Denmark and Norway, securing vital northern resources. Then, in May 1940, Germany launched an armored spearhead through the Ardennes, bypassing the Maginot Line and shattering French defenses. Paris fell in 6 weeks, a feat that stunned the world and left Britain standing alone. These were not mere battlefield victories. They were masterstrokes of planning, deception, and mechanized warfare. But with each victory, confidence grew. With each conquest, Hitler's belief in his own genius overshadowed the hard-earned expertise of his generals. The seeds of catastrophe were sown not in defeat, but in the intoxication of success. The first and greatest gamble came in the East. On June 22, 1941, at precisely 3:15 a.m., Operation Barbarossa began. It was the largest military invasion in human history. More than 3.5 million Axis troops surged across an 1,800-mile front, their goal nothing less than the destruction of the Soviet Union. Mountains of German war plans and intelligence reports predicted that the Soviet state was rotten, its army weak, its people demoralized. The invasion, they believed, would be over in a matter of weeks. Yet these assessments were built on sand. German intelligence estimated the Red Army could field 200 divisions. The real number was closer to 400. They believed Soviet factories could build 1,000 tanks per year. In reality, the Soviets would produce nearly 5 times that number. But the most critical error wasn't a matter of numbers. It was a matter of timing. Hitler's generals, veterans of the previous campaigns, urged an early start. They wanted to invade in May, taking advantage of the long summer days and avoiding the infamous Russian winter. But Hitler, ever distrustful, delayed the operation by a month to secure his southern flank in the Balkans. That single delay would prove catastrophic. By December, German tanks were within sight of Moscow's spires, but the bitter cold arrived first. German soldiers wore thin summer uniforms, their boots and coats inadequate for the plunging temperatures. Lubricants froze in their weapons. Engines refused to start. In some battalions, frostbite claimed more men than Soviet bullets. By year's end, the Wehrmacht had suffered 750,000 casualties, more than in all their previous campaigns combined. But the greater disaster was strategic. In launching Operation Barbarossa, Hitler had committed Germany to the very scenario his generals had always feared: a war on 2 fronts. While struggling in the endless wastes of Russia, the Reich still had to defend occupied Europe and fight the British Empire in Africa and on the seas. Just as the eastern offensive stalled in the snowdrifts outside Moscow, another storm was brewing across the Atlantic. On December 7, 1941, Japanese planes attacked Pearl Harbor, dragging the United States into the Pacific War. Under the terms of the Tripartite Pact, Germany was only obliged to help Japan if it was attacked first. Hitler faced a choice: keep the United States at arm's length or declare war and turn an already massive conflict into a truly global one. On December 11, 1941, Hitler chose war. He stood before the Reichstag, denouncing Roosevelt and hurling Germany into battle with the world's greatest industrial power. The logic behind this fateful decision remains debated. Some argue Hitler believed war with America was inevitable. After all, U.S. ships were already clashing with German U-boats in the Atlantic. Others suggest he saw the United States as a paper tiger, distracted by Japan and incapable of fighting a major campaign in Europe. But whatever his reasoning, the facts are clear. In 1941, America produced 19,000 aircraft. Within 3 years, that number would swell to nearly 100,000. American shipyards launched more new vessels in a single year than the entire German Navy possessed. Detroit's car factories were retooled overnight to churn out tanks and trucks by the tens of thousands. And it wasn't just American armies that benefited. Lend-Lease convoys delivered vital food, fuel, and weaponry to Britain and the Soviet Union. Soviet T-34 tanks rolled forward on American steel, fueled by American oil. The trucks that ferried Red Army soldiers to Stalingrad were stamped, "Made in USA." By 1943, the Allies outproduced the Axis powers 2-to-1 in aircraft, 4-to-1 in tanks, and 15-to-1 in shipping. Hitler had transformed a European struggle into a worldwide industrial showdown, and he was hopelessly outmatched. Yet even as resources dwindled and enemies multiplied, Hitler's grasp on military strategy became ever more rigid, ever more personal. In the early years, he had delegated operational decisions to his seasoned generals, but as setbacks mounted, he grew increasingly distrustful, convinced only he possessed the insight to guide Germany to victory. From his distant headquarters, Hitler issued direct orders to frontline units, often overruling his commanders and forbidding any withdrawal, no matter how desperate the situation. Nowhere was this disastrous micromanagement more evident than at Stalingrad. In the summer of 1942, General Friedrich Paulus's Sixth Army was ordered to capture the city that bore Stalin's name. The fighting descended into a hellish battle of attrition, block by block, house by house. As Soviet resistance stiffened and counterattacks threatened to encircle the Germans, Paulus and his staff pleaded for permission to fall back to more defensible lines. Hitler's reply was unequivocal. No retreat. The army will stand fast. On November 19, 1942, the Soviets unleashed Operation Uranus, encircling the entire Sixth Army. Trapped and cut off from supplies, Paulus again requested permission to break out. Hitler refused, insisting the Luftwaffe could resupply the beleaguered garrison by air. The reality was grim. They needed 500 tons of supplies each day to survive, but the Luftwaffe could deliver at most a fifth of that amount. By January, German soldiers were reduced to boiling leather and bones for sustenance. On February 2, 1943, the once proud Sixth Army surrendered. The cost was staggering. 800,000 Axis soldiers dead, wounded, or captured. The myth of Nazi invincibility was shattered, and from that point forward, Germany would never regain the strategic initiative. Stalingrad was no isolated case. In Normandy, as Allied forces stormed ashore on D-Day, Hitler kept 2 elite panzer divisions in reserve, refusing to release them until the danger was obvious. Even then, he was asleep, and his staff dared not wake him to seek orders. When the Battle of the Bulge erupted in the Ardennes, Hitler's insistence on attacking through impassable forests and capturing Antwerp in a single blow doomed the offensive from the start. These failures were not disconnected. They reinforced and magnified each other. The ill-fated Russian invasion drained Germany's manpower just as the American juggernaut entered the war. Hitler's insistence on personal control stripped his armies of flexibility and initiative, precisely when the Allies' industrial might and material superiority became overwhelming. By 1944, Germany was beset on all sides, the Soviets advancing from the east, Allied armies pressing from Italy and France, and relentless bombing raids reducing German industry to rubble. The Reich could manage only a fraction of Allied tank and aircraft production. Fuel was scarce. Morale collapsed. The human cost of these blunders defies comprehension. Operation Barbarossa alone cost Germany 4 million casualties. The Eastern Front swallowed up 80% of the Wehrmacht's fighting strength. By war's end, More than 5 million German soldiers were dead. A generation lost. On April 30th, 1945, as Soviet shells crashed overhead, Adolf Hitler ended his life in a Berlin bunker. The 1,000-year Reich had lasted just 12 years and 3 months. The world it left behind was scarred, but the lessons it offered would echo for generations. Hitler's failures offer enduring lessons for leaders everywhere. Never underestimate your enemy's resolve or resources. Never fight a war on multiple fronts. And never let ego blind you to expertise or reasoned counsel. In war, as in life, strategy matters more than raw power or fleeting tactical brilliance. If you enjoyed this historical journey, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to click the bell icon.